How much should a pet cost? Can you trust the people selling them? Sit tight as we go through messages between friends, where a man has come across something he can't unsee. Hello, Paul. I'm sorry for springing this up on you. I know I might be looking too deeply into this, or maybe I'm insane. Even if I'm not crazy and it turns out that I'm right, speaking about this might put a target on both of our backs. But I haven't been able to sleep ever since I came across this website. This website. That's what I keep calling it. I can't bring myself to say its true name out loud. My hands shake when I consider writing it down. It's like the website is some sort of predator that can only see movement, or a demon that's summoned if you say its name. If I'm still enough, and quiet enough, maybe it won't hurt me. I know you'll think I'm overreacting when you see the screenshots I've attached to this email. They're just weird item listings for dogs you can buy. It's just posts of people wanting to sell off animals. Nothing sinister, right? I must be paranoid or sleep deprived. But no matter how much I rationalize it, deep down I don't think anyone on this website is actually selling dogs. Everyone posts these strange photos instead of proper portraits. No one ever mentions the exact ages of the dogs, and the descriptions are creepy. Holy hell, the descriptions are the worst part. The sellers try to sound normal, but there's something off about the way they talk about their pets. I think I know what's actually going on, but I don't want to write it out. I feel like if I don't say it, then it won't be true. I know it's stupid, but I want to believe that if it stays in my head, then maybe the dogs will just be dogs. But I can't keep this to myself anymore. I need someone else to look at the website and tell me that I'm wrong. And if I'm right, then I need someone to help me figure out what to do next. I couldn't bring myself to send you a link to the site, but the screenshots would be enough for you to decide whether I need to be institutionalized or not. God, I just wanted another dog. Lucy is adorable, but she's getting lonely now that I've taken up more shifts at work. She would feel better if I got her a friend. I don't have enough money to buy a new puppy for the same price that I got Lucy. Most of the adoption agencies near me are pricey, $180 to $250 per dog. I could have waited for some random person to give up their puppies, but do people do that for free anymore in this economy? I'm rambling. Listen, I was just looking for cheap alternatives when I came across that horrible site. I don't even know why I stayed on the website for so long. I guess I wanted to know why the dogs were so expensive. Now it's been days since I last slept, and my back hurts, and my head aches, and god damn it, I just wanted another dog. Please, get back to me as soon as you can, Paul. Thank you, Doug. Name, Lola. Gender, female. Age, adult. Size, medium. Price, $1,000. Other information. Dog hit menopause early. Can still do tricks, but I want one I can breed. Cute, funny, quiet, obedient. I am willing to negotiate the price. Name, Buddy. Gender, male. Age, juvenile. Size, small. Price, $6,000. Other information. Young, healthy, nothing wrong with it. I'm just a new dog owner that's way in over her head. Didn't realize grooming them would be so difficult. I thought it would be easier to correct bad behavior when they're young. Strong limbs for its size, but nothing unmanageable. Doesn't like being touched. Keeps barking for its mother. Keeps trying to get the canines to look in its direction whenever it sees one nearby. Willing to do a trade instead of cash, but I'll only accept dogs that have been fully trained and are submissive. Don't care if they're depressed. Might actually be preferable if it keeps a dog from being so rebellious. DM me if interested. Name, Duke. Gender, male. Age, elder. Size, medium. Price, $200. Other information. Hello, it's me again. I posted this item listing a few months ago, but I didn't get any buyers. That's such a shame because Duke is such a good boy. He's old, but he is a sweetheart. More importantly, he's very good at tracking down runaway doggies. He might be slow, but his eyes are as sharp as ever. He likes applesauce, caramel candies, and old soap operas. He's a good listener and can still go on long walks despite his weak legs, and almost never barks. He's an amazing boy and deserves a good forever home. Name: Coco. Gender: female. Age: juvenile. Size: medium. Price: $20,000. Other information: a few years away from being an adult, healthy, flexible and physically fit, quiet and pleasant bark, does not enjoy company, cries often, has a habit of biting itself, is reluctant to do tricks. Coco is good company once you get past its moping and reluctance to do tricks of any kind. I'm actually not its first owner, which is part of the reason why it has such a bad attitude. Not having a stable living arrangement is stressful for dogs too, I suppose. I'd rather not get rid of it, but I'm hurting for money and I don't think I have the stomach for taking care of dogs anymore. Owning pets is a younger man's game. Once Coco is in your home, it may rebel for a little bit. Some mild discipline will correct bad behavior, but expect it to be extremely moody and lethargic for a week or two. It has yet to have any puppies, but there's nothing to suggest that it is incapable of reproduction. Maybe you'll have better luck breeding it than I have. Price is not up for negotiation. Name: BB. Gender: female. Age: adult. Size: large. Price: $500,000. Other information: BB is the best dog you can own. I have taken care of many dogs in my lifetime, but I've never had one like BB. Unlike most animals, she was always receptive to my training. It did not take her long to outgrow her rebelliousness and escape artist tendencies. She is highly affectionate, actively seeks out pats and words of affirmation, and will do anything asked of her. She also does wonders to help train new dogs. If BB were younger, I would not dream of selling her. However, she is getting on in years. She is losing her vision and not as fast as she used to be, though she is currently pregnant and has a very fertile history as she is fond of tricks. I imagine that this litter will be her last. With that being said, not only is she currently carrying twins, she also has 3 young puppies with her. I am willing to sell both the pregnant mother and the puppy together for the right price. This offer is time sensitive as BB will give birth in the next few months. If she does give birth before I receive any offers, then I may be tempted to keep the newborns, so act quickly. Edit. When I first posted this item listing, I wrote that the mother had 3 offspring and was also pregnant with another litter. Unfortunately, the adoption house I used to take care of the dogs was run over by canines. The canines invaded our property, incapacitated many of our workers, and kept us from retrieving much of our inventory. This includes the offspring that I intended to sell with the mother. Thankfully, I was able to take the mother away before the canines could do either of us harm. Also, in spite of the stressful and abrupt nature of our departure, the mother has not miscarried any of the unborn puppies. Another positive note, even though the mother had every opportunity to run headlong into the canines, she chose not to and stuck to my side instead. If nothing else, this is proof of how well trained she is. Since the original asking price was based on all 3 offspring accompanying the mother, I understand if you wish to haggle the price a little lower. I am willing to adjust the cost, but I hope we can reach an agreement that is mutually beneficial. Hello, Bob. Thanks for letting me know about Doug. It's a shame what happened to him. He seemed like such a happy man, but I suppose you can never know when someone is suffering mentally if they're good at hiding it. Though in retrospect, there was something off about the last time we interacted. Shortly before he died, he was acting very paranoid. He sent me an email about a pet seller website, and he seemed convinced that something evil was going on behind the scenes. I thought this was strange because I recognized the website. I used it multiple times myself. There is nothing sinister about it, just people trying to sell dogs. Anyway, I'll do my best to attend the funeral. I won't promise anything, but I want to be there for his family. I can't begin to imagine what they must be going through. All my regards, Paul. P.S. I'm glad you decided to adopt Lucy. All dogs deserve good homes. How well do your friends know you? If you need to prove your identity, Could you? Sit tight as we go through a text message between friends, where the realities of truth and identity are made unclear. So don't take it personally. Cal is gonna be in a bad mood until he can sort things out with Julie. She should break up with him. He suck a turd. Such. Nah, he sucks turds too. Did Cal ever give you your book back? Speak of the devil. Cal just texted me. BRB, are you real? Damn it, you woke me up. What do you mean, are you real? How do I know that you're the real Ben? What? Answer me. How do I know you're not pretending to be Ben? If you're him, then I need to know. I need help. What the hell are you talking about? You texted me. Why would I pretend to be me? If I wanted to trick you, I would have contacted you first. Are you high or something? Maybe you stole his phone. His. If I stole a phone, why would I answer messages on it? Are you drunk? Did you finally break into your dad's liquor cabinet? I'm not drunk! I'm scared! Cal is acting weird, and now you won't answer my questions! I don't know if anyone is real anymore! Jesus, calm down. How am I supposed to stay calm? What the hell is going on? Please, start from the beginning. What happened? What do you mean Cal is acting weird? Okay, I'm sorry. When Cal started texting me, I didn't think anything of it at first. He was just complaining about Julie. But then he said that Julie was going out of her way to not call him Calvin because she knew it made him upset. He hates being called Calvin. I know! I didn't think it was a big deal at first. I just said something like, oh, only Julie can call you Calvin now? I wasn't serious. I just thought it was funny. But then he started asking me questions about himself. Like what? Hold on, I'll copy-paste some of them. Okay. But you know I'm actually Ben, right? Here, look. Do you know when my birthday is? How many times have I gone on vacation? What is my brother's name? Cal doesn't have a brother. I know! I was answering his questions at first, but then I realized that none of this was right, and he was being super creepy, so I stopped. But he kept getting angrier and creepier. I asked him to take a picture with a water bottle on top of his head, and he did it. Can I see the picture? And the picture looked normal, but then he said, pictures mean nothing. What the hell does that mean? Let me see the picture. No. Why not? Are you Ben? Oh, come on. How am I supposed to prove that I'm Ben? What's your full name? We're doing 20 questions now? Really? Not answering my questions isn't going to make me trust you more. God damn it. Fine. Benjamin Aiden Batts. How old are you? 18. How long have we known each other? Technically 3 years, though we only really started hanging out last year after Amy invited us both to her birthday party. Where do you live? What are your parents' names? Hold up. You should know that I'm telling the truth by now. How do I know that you're the real Emily? Excuse me? This could be a data mining scam. You're pretending to be Emily in order to hack my phone or something. What? You made up some story about Cal being a doppelganger or whatever to throw me off so that I'd tell you anything you needed to know. No, I didn't! Let me guess. Your next question is, what are your credit card details? Gotta say, as far as scams go, you get points in creativity. I'm Emily! Prove it. Fine, I'll call you. Okay, what's going on, Em? Em? Hello? Em? Why did you hang up? You didn't say anything. Yes, I did! I was in the middle of talking when you hung up on me. I didn't hear anything. Call me again. Okay. Emily? This isn't funny! You didn't say anything! Yes, I did! You're the one who wasn't talking. I kept calling your name and you said nothing. Are you pranking me? Did Amy put you up to this? You're pranking me! But you might not even be Emily. You still haven't proven that you are. You didn't mention Amy until I brought her up. That's because there was no reason to! I can't believe you're doing this to me! I'm doing this to you! You're the one who started this shit! I was asking for your help, you jack— F it. Whatever. I'll deal with this on my own. Good! Hey, are you seriously not gonna text me anymore? Hello? Emily? Remember when I got drunk a few months ago and pissed myself? You poured beer all over my pants to cover up the mess so Amy wouldn't find out. I'm still surprised that you never told her about the crush I have on her, though I think she knows about it already. But yeah, I don't think I ever thanked you for that, so thanks. Really. Em, come on. Answer me. I live at Pleasant Heights. My parents are Roger and Lily Bats. I absorbed a twin in the womb. I'm really good at math, but all my other grades are crap. My parents want me to be an accountant, but I want to be a mechanic. What else do you need to know? Em? I'm sorry, okay? I'm still half asleep, and I don't know what's going on, but I'm sorry. On. I'm so scared. I know. What can I do to help? Could you come over to my house? Don't knock on the front door. I don't want to wake my parents. Just tap on the living room window. I'll look through the blinds to make sure it's actually you. I know it's late, but I won't be able to sleep until I know at least one of you is real. The thing pretending to be Cal said it will replace everyone I know. Holy shit, that's creepy. Okay, I'll be right over. Thank you. I'm at the window. Where are you? Em? If you're not going to come outside, I'm going back home. Em! Emily! God damn it! I'm leaving! Now you've got me paranoid. I could have sworn I saw a shadow thing stalking me on the way home. Thanks for the nightmares, Em! No problem. Thank you for letting me follow you home, Benjamin Aiden Bats. Hey, Ben! Guess whose parents are leaving town for the weekend? It's short notice, but get ready for super awesome house party number 3. Hello? Benny? Don't ghost me. Are you real? Dude, what? I was texting Emily. She wanted me to answer questions about herself that she should have known. Do you know when my birthday is? How many times have I gone on vacation? What is my brother's name? Stuff like that. And when I confronted her about it, the thing pretending to be Emily said it will replace everyone I know. I swear this isn't a joke. How do I know you're the real Amy? What is your ideal girlfriend? What would you be willing to tolerate for love? Would you fall for someone like Sophia? Her name is spelled S-O-H-F-E-E-A-H, but don't hold that against her. She is wonderful. You're surprised she entertained the idea of dating you. She is one of the most beautiful girls you have ever met. 10 out of 10, way out of your league. Never nags at you to clean up after yourself. Never complains when you leave the toilet seat up. Never forces you to watch those stupid romance movies with interchangeable characters and reused plot lines. I'd rather watch whatever you like to watch. An incredible cook. She blushes when you tell her that she should become a professional chef. Makes whatever you want to eat, so long as it doesn't have peanuts in it. I'm allergic, sorry. Attentive to your needs. Patient. Takes genuine interest in your hobbies. Lives to make you happy. I'll do whatever you want. Anything for you, Anon. Except she doesn't do everything you ask. She's too clingy, not in a cute way. Never wants you out of her sight. Has to be involved in whatever you do. Has to tag along wherever you go. You can't even take a dump in peace. I don't mind the smell, Anon. What the hell? Who in the world says things like that? Texts you non-stop if she can't physically be near you. Your phone buzzes with new notifications every 5 to 10 minutes. If you don't reply fast enough, she calls you and demands to know why you didn't answer her texts. Cries every time you ask her to give you some space. I don't understand. Why don't you want me around? Don't you still love me? Guilt compels you to apologize. She calms down, and then follows you into the bathroom again. Might be trying to isolate you from other girls? The friendly cashier at your local grocery store no longer looks you in the eye. All of your online female friends have either blocked you or refused to reply to your messages. Your own cousins have started acting distant whenever you visit them. You can't prove that your girlfriend is responsible, but you never had this problem with other girls until you started dating her. Plays dumb when you confront her about this. I guess they don't understand how wonderful you are. Oh well, that's their loss. At least I can have you all to myself. Guilt can only keep you in this relationship for so long. There are only so many times she can follow you around the house or text you in the middle of the night before you lose your mind. At your wit's end, you break up with her after a year together. You expect tears, begging, screaming matches, and threats to end things. But for someone who is clearly obsessed with you, she's surprisingly calm. Amicable, even. She takes her stuff from your house, apologizes for bothering you, and leaves without a fuss. At first you are relieved that she didn't fall into hysterics or try to stab you, but soon mild paranoia replaces the relief. Surely she wasn't going to give up so easily. She must have poisoned your food, or put secret cameras in your bedroom, or planned to set your house on fire while you slept. Days turn into weeks. Your food is untainted. There are no cameras in any of your rooms. No fires start in your house. She does not return. Still, you're unsettled enough that you call her to ask if the two of you are still on good terms. Of course, Anon. Why wouldn't we be? Is that all? Okay, goodbye. Click. Oh. Alright then. You tentatively return to the dating scene. It doesn't take long to find a new girlfriend. And isn't she amazing? Her name is Ivy, but it's spelled E-Y-E-V-E-E. Huh. A strange way to spell that name, but that hardly matters. Her looks take your breath away. She is the kindest, sweetest, most caring person you have ever met. Her mouth-watering food is to die for, though she is adamant about not cooking meals with peanuts in them. She washes your dishes. She does your laundry. She does everything you ask her to do. Anything for you, Anon. But she also hovers over your shoulder whenever you get a text from someone. And she calls you at 2 a.m. to ask mundane questions. And your female neighbor avoids looking in your direction whenever you exit the house. Oh, no. You are not dealing with this again. She might be hot, but she's not hot enough for you to tolerate this nonsense a second time. You break up with her after a month of dating. She doesn't plead with you to change your mind, doesn't threaten to make a false abuse claim against you. She just leaves. She is barely out the door before you find someone new. You go through many girlfriends in a short amount of time. The more you date, the more unsettled you feel. You keep coming across girls who seem perfect at first. Kind-hearted beauties who never mock you, who cook like they received lessons from God himself, and who bend over backwards to please you. The ideal girlfriend. But every single one is allergic to peanuts. Every single one stalks you around the house or texts you every 2 seconds when they can't be near you. And every single one has names with weird spelling. Lucy, spelled L-O-O-S-E-E. Mia, spelled M-E-E-A-H. Who the f*** spells Naomi N-E-I-G-H-O-H-M-E-E? And why is it that you can't see or talk to another woman without them growing to fear you? Except that's not the worst case scenario anymore, is it? That nice cashier stopped coming into work, 2 of your female cousins got into a bad car accident that left them in a coma, your neighbor was found cut into pieces inside of her own bathtub. You have no way of proving that your ex-girlfriends hurt all these women, but deep down, you know it was them. Them or her? What if you haven't been dating multiple women? What if it's the same girl pretending to be different people? That's crazy, but it explains why they all have the same allergies, cooking skills, and temperament. It explains why they're never mad when you break up with them. Why would she be angry when she'll be back in a few weeks? You go to the police. They think you're having a psychotic episode and recommend you to a therapist. You go to your parents for advice. Your mother avoids speaking to you for reasons she refuses to explain. Everywhere you turn, help is denied. If people don't think you're insane, they assume you're exaggerating. No one understands why you're afraid. You're a big, strong man and she's just some chick. Anyone would be lucky to be stalked by a hot woman. Besides, if you really can't handle the attention, you can deal with it yourself, right? Well, looks like you'll have to. When you suggest having a date night at a national park, you are not surprised when Hazel, spelled Hayzelle, agrees to it. Even when you tell her not to inform anyone about where she's going, she just smiles and nods. Anything for you, Anan. The most nerve-wracking part about being in a national park at night isn't the strange sounds or potential predators hiding in the shadows. It's the feeling of your girlfriend's eyes staring into the back of your skull as you walk through the trees. If she wants to eat you or tear you limb from limb, this would be the perfect time to do it. Instead, she talks about how she can't wait to have your children and grow old together. We'll have a wonderful future, Anan. You heard it all before when she was Sophia, Ivy, Lucy, Mia, and Naomi. The two of you reach the top of a large cliff. She looks up at the stars. You look down at the chasm below. You can't see the bottom. Wow, the sky is so pretty. Oh, is that a shooting star? Make a wish, Anan. You shove her. A small gasp escapes her lips as she tumbles off the edge. She otherwise does not make a sound. You think you hear it when she hits the ground, but it's hard to tell when your heart beats loud in your ears. It takes all your willpower not to sprint back to your car. You vomit in the parking lot before driving home. Her final gasp haunts you all the way to bed. Hikers find her body the next morning. When the news anchor makes the announcement, you turn off the TV and stay indoors for the rest of the day. You wait for the police to knock on your door. They don't. You wait for someone to suspect you. No one does. You do not date anyone for a very long time. You tell yourself that you don't feel guilty for what you've done. You had no other choice. No one would help, so you had to deal with it yourself. When you finally start dating again, it's rough. You're uncomfortable around women you are attracted to. You avoid girls who like cooking. You met someone named Sarah. When you found out it was spelled without an H, S-A-R-A, you nearly had a panic attack. You nearly had a panic attack over the letter H. What the hell is wrong with you? Your stalker is dead. You know she's dead. If you lose your mind every time someone has a name spelled differently than what you are expecting, you're going to die alone. Finally, after many false starts and aborted first dates, you meet someone you're comfortable with. Her name is Amy. While it's spelled A-M-I, that's not alarmingly weird, so you force yourself to ignore it. She's cute, but not so attractive that you feel like you tricked her into being interested in you. The date starts off a bit awkwardly, and not because you took her to a cheap restaurant. You order food, but she only orders water. I actually forgot that I made plans with you until the last minute. I had a big lunch before coming here, so I'm not hungry. Sorry, Anan. She forgot about her date with you? Wow, that just screams, I'm excited to see you, doesn't it? Except, she actually does seem happy to be on this date, forgetfulness aside. She is kind, but not overly eager to please. She's clearly attracted to you, but not in a way that comes across as obsessive. She says she wouldn't mind learning how to cook, but claims not to have any skills in the kitchen. She doesn't seem like perfect girlfriend material, but she's not trying to be. That's refreshing, honestly. Your food arrives. Shrimp fried rice. It tastes cheap, greasy, and incredible. You offer to share the plate with your date. She recoils. Quickly, she tries to downplay her reaction. Sorry, I'm still full from my lunch. You know she's lying. She's repulsed by your food. But why? You fork some more rice into your mouth. Then you taste it. Peanut oil. Your fork slips from your fingers. Your stomach clenches. A sudden wave of nausea makes you sweat. You swallow down your dread before asking if she is allergic to peanuts. She stares at you for a minute, then two. A piece of dust lands in the corner of her eye. She doesn't blink. Then she cackles. Her laughter bursts out of her chest like a firecracker and lasts too long. What kind of question is that? Why do you want to know? You have some peanuts for me to eat? No, it's fine. I'll eat the rice. I'll eat anything you want me to. Anything for you. None. The blob ate the neighbor's house. Elias gawked at the thing from his kitchen window. For 15 minutes, he scanned for any trace of Retha's home. No part of the house poked through the writhing mass. Not the gray shingles from the pitched roof, the dormer windows, the off-white siding, or the wooden steps leading to the front door. The compulsion to go outside overpowered his caution. He found himself twisting the knob of his front door before he consciously made the decision to leave the safety of his home. The stench of burning tires, ammonia, and copper hit him the moment he opened the door. Though faint, the scent was impossible to ignore. He shut the door behind him, not wanting the smell to pollute the inside of his home. Stepping out onto the walkway with no small measure of hesitation, he turned left and balked at the undeniable presence of the thing. An iridescent sheen covered the surface of the viscous tar-like mass. Gelatinous bubbles dribbled and popped out of the innumerable yawning pores. The air shimmered around it, like heat waves off of scalding asphalt. The blob undulated in place where Retha's house once stood. Elias thought about his options as he stared in mute revulsion at a protrusion that might have once been the chimney. Air purifiers were expensive, so he had to settle with keeping the windows closed to block out the smell. The shutters let in a healthy amount of sunlight when closed, which allowed him to shut the blinds on the blob without the west side of the house being in complete darkness. Retha's home sat 2 houses away from the end of the cul-de-sac. He had no business traveling to that dead end, much less stare in its direction whenever he went outside. "What are you looking at?" his mother called from the front of his house. She leaned against the door, arms crossed. Graying hair framed the confused expression on her face. "Close the door, Mama," he said. "You're going to let the stink in." His mother did not close the door. She stepped off the front porch and looked left. "Cute," she said. Confused, Elias scanned his surroundings. Birds flew around the house-sized blob. Squirrels scampered up trees on the opposite side of the street. His other neighbors, who did not have their houses eaten, tilted their heads away from the blob as they entered their cars. He saw nothing that could have prompted an affectionate response from his mother. "What's cute?" he asked. She pointed at the blob. "It looks like a huge puffball," she said. "That's adorable." Elias balked. "No, that thing is not adorable." "What?" "It would be a lovely pet if it wasn't so big," she said. "I always wanted a pet." "It ate Retha's house," he said. "It's fine," she said. "Come inside before your breakfast gets cold." She entered the house without sparing another look at the blob. She did not close the door behind her. Breakfast. The day was new and Elias had to get ready for work. Where did Retha work? Her job paid well enough for the woman to live on her own, but he never figured out what that job entailed. What time did she start? Had she been inside when the blob consumed her house? Was she still alive in there? Did Elias escape the neighborhood? A sound like a growling stomach caused ripples to spread across the blob's gummy surface. He turned away with a grimace. Retha must be alive. She was at work, ignorant of what happened to her home and unaware of the nasty surprise waiting for her at the end of her shift. Leaving the neighborhood was an extreme response. He resented the prospect of living next to the blob, but he could tolerate it in the periphery of his life. If it did not invade his personal space, acclimating to the uncomfortable aura radiating off its rancid skin would not be impossible. The blob ate half the garden. Their backyard had no chance of winning awards, but it was a hobbyist's dream. Green grass, healthy tulips and roses, a stone footpath, a medium-sized fountain, and a wooden gazebo made it a great place to relax in nice weather. Though Elias removed weeds and trimmed dying leaves on occasion, his mother lovingly tended to the garden like a second child. The backyard gave her an endless source of pride. The blob tainted the left side of the garden beyond repair. It erased everything under its opaque form. Even objects not touching the rank mass became malformed. Grass yellowed and shriveled like dead spiders, stems sagged, withered petals fell to the ground, stone crumbled into dust, the fountain spewed dark water, and rot clung to the base of the gazebo. His mother continued gardening, unbothered by the corruption. The right side of the backyard got the same attention and care she had given it countless times before. Every day, millimeters at a time, the blob consumed years of hard work. She did not mourn the slow destruction, nor did she try to halt its ravenous path. "Mama, you shouldn't be out here." A cloth over Elias's mouth and nose muffled his voice. A headache formed in the front of his skull whenever he moved the cloth away from his face for more than a minute. The stench of burnt rubber, ammonia, and copper made his eyes water and irritated the walls of his throat. The back porch had yet to be touched by the blob, but he hugged the right side of the platform as he watched his mother work. A roach-infested apartment or the basement of a stranger was all he could afford, but living with pests or strangers was preferable to the encroaching horror that continuously oozed from where Retha's house used to be. His mother had no desire to leave, but he was not opposed to living on his own. He needed to escape the neighborhood. "Mama!" Elias tried again. He leaned over the railing. His mother scooped up the ruined half of the stone path with a hand broom and dustpan. Her fingers brushed dangerously close to the blob. Elias pulled the cloth away from his face. "Mom, don't—" A coughing fit interrupted his warning. He clutched the railing for support as he attempted to expel the rancid air out of his lungs. With every sharp inhale he took between coughs, more foulness polluted his insides. He made a hasty retreat into the house. His mother refused to keep the windows closed. "We need to let the heat out," she kept saying, like the devil's defecation was not outside their walls. However, in spite of the blob's miasma permeating throughout the interior of the house, clean air flowing from the east kept the awful stench from overpowering their home. Once he caught his breath, he returned to the porch. The taste of foreign blood and stale urine rested on the tip of his tongue. Keeping the cloth over his nose, he spat into the garden. "Please don't spit on the flower bed," his mother said, not looking up from her work. "You're too close to that thing," Elias said. "Move back." Why?" she asked. Astonishment kept him from speaking again. The blob was clearly dangerous. Even if it were safe to be around, its horrid smell repelled anything with a nose. He struggled understanding how she tolerated being close to it. "Don't mind him," his mother said to the blob. "He's just being dramatic." Perhaps he was overreacting. If it was as dangerous as he thought, then surely she would react to the blob's presence with the gravity it deserved. His peace of mind would be restored if he moved somewhere far away, but did he want to live in a run-down apartment with roaches? Did he want to rent a basement with little to no light from the outside? What if his landlord was a thief or a serial killer? Perhaps the blob had no desire to eat their home. He could afford an air purifier if he saved up for it. Locking himself inside his room until he found somewhere nice to live, while not ideal, might be better for him in the long run. If it kills you, it will be your fault. This thought, alongside the realization that he had not seen Retha in weeks, chilled him. Elias bucked off his unease with a shake of his head. He sighed. "Please don't touch it." "It's fine," his mother said. "Can you bring me another garbage bag? All the ones I brought outside are full." The blob ate the living room and kitchen. When Elias first noticed the gluttonous creature bleed through the back door, a part of him was surprised at the alarm he felt. He was taken aback by his own discomfort at seeing the mass slink across the cold floor tiles of the kitchen and the shag carpet of the living room. To the part of his brain accustomed to and numbed by the presence of the thing, getting agitated felt like a waste of time and energy. Unfortunately, the defiled space and increased loss of control was not his only source of distress. The blob smell intensified. If someone urinated up his nostrils, the stream would fail to produce a stronger ammonia smell. Accompanied by an assault of scorched polymer and steaming blood, the fetid mixture was unlike anything he ever had the misfortune of experiencing. Air flowing through the east-facing windows no longer diluted the stench. Face masks did nothing to filter it out. Air purifiers were powerless against the foul might of the blob. Breathing through his nose for too long gave him migraines that felt like rusty sewing pins scraping the inside of his skull. Breathing through his mouth made his stomach acid bubble against the surrounding organ. Rotating between his nose and mouth felt like voluntary torture, but his airways could only take so much abuse before they needed rest. His mother also suffered from the effects of the blob's invasion. Her eyes were perpetually bloodshot. She developed a rash on her cheeks, neck, and shoulders. Clumps of hair fell from her scalp. Yet her nonchalance towards the blob remained unchanged. She blamed her red eyes on an infection, put on makeup to cover the rash, wore hats to hide the balding, and continued standing far too close to the toxic monster in their house. "Why do you lock yourself in your room all the time?" his mother asked. "I don't like it when you bring your food into your room. I want to talk to you during dinner." Elias had been halfway up the stairs when the interrogation stopped him mid-stride. He turned on weak legs to look down at his mother on the ground floor. The bottom of the stairway, a slim path in the living room that led to the foyer, and the front door were the only untouched areas on that level. He opened his mouth to speak, then doubled over in another coughing fit. He slapped a hand against the wall to keep himself from falling. His palm sank through the rotting wallpaper. The blob took over the kitchen a week ago. Elias refused to risk eating anything from the house long before the sticky growth crept its way over the tiled floor and devoured their fridge. His mother continued making food for herself until she was incapable of entering the room. Now either she or Elias had to buy takeout. His mother preferred to eat while sitting on the stairs. He refused to do the same. "Well?" His mother's impatient tone had little effect on Elias as he tried to recover from the fit, though he wished she stopped looking at him like he was ignoring her. "Why don't you eat with me anymore?" "The blob," he rasped. His mother rolled her eyes. "I don't know what your problem is. There's nothing wrong with it," she said. "If you hate it so much, you don't have to live here." Elias had a few family members he could stay with for a while, but none of them were good options. His mostly absent father promised to help him move to his own place, but he did not want to be a financial burden on a man he saw once every few months. His cousins still lived with their parents. His aunts and uncles were not in a position to handle another occupant in their house. Grandparents from his mother's side would not reject their grandson, but they still took issue with him being born out of wedlock. Grandparents from his father's side lived in a different country. Aside from the long distance, his fear of flying made that option a last resort. "I'm tired, Mom," he said. "I'm going to sleep." His bedroom was his only sanctuary. Though the room offered no freedom from the smell, his bed was positioned in the farthest point from the ever-growing creature. He did not feel its presence or hear the growling noises from there. When he closed his eyes while under the covers, he pretended to live in a world where the blob never invaded his home. "Fine! Fine. Get some rest." His mother's voice lacked empathy. "Maybe you'll eat with me tomorrow." Elias tried to reply. Another cough smothered his words. He gave his mother a weak thumbs up instead. Not waiting for her to react, he stumbled away. His shadow casted over framed photographs on the wall. Swimming at the beach. Blowing out birthday candles. A boy that used to be happy. A woman that once possessed maternal instincts. Snapshots of less miserable times. Time. The blob did not eat Elias's bedroom. He and his mother no longer lived in a house with a parasite. The all-encompassing mass turned their home into a sinking ship, and they were rats scrambling for dry purchase. The grace of God allowed them to find continuous refuge in his untainted bedroom. For now. No melting tires, no urine, no blood. No scents pervaded the yet-to-be-consumed room. In the absence of smell, a burn akin to scalding razor blades drove into his nostrils, throat, and lungs. It hurt to think about breathing. Inhaling any amount of oxygen was agonizing. A rope ladder allowed him to leave through the window. All other exits were consumed by the blob. When outside, every breath came without the promise of pain. He had enough energy to move around. He could not claim to be happy out there, and he felt like a freak whenever his surviving neighbors refused to look at him, but his stress lessened when he stayed outdoors. All of his energy drained out of his body once he returned home. It was a miracle he had the strength to crawl into bed. Once prone, he stayed cocooned in his sheets until he needed to use the bathroom. When they still had a bathroom to use. 5 minutes passed since his mother informed him that they no longer had access to a toilet or shower. A week or two prior, the rashes on her skin turned into boils that defied being concealed by makeup. Her irises were dark pits sitting on pools of red. She was bald under her hat. Still, no longer had access, or some variation of the phrase, was how she continued to describe the slow consumption of their home, as if the house itself were at fault for their decreased living space.
I don't understand why you never tried to make this work.
His mother had a chain smoker's rasp. She coughed several times before continuing.
If you opened your heart to it, you'd see that it has a good soul. Why can't you just be nicer to it?
Elias tilted his head away from the pillow. He looked for a hint of sarcasm or amusement on her face, desperate for a sign that she did not mean what she said. Surely, after everything that happened to them, she realized the thing was harmful. Her expression lacked humor or clarity of mind. No regret or love swam in her eyes. She radiated disappointment in a son who refused to pretend that everything was okay.
The blob is evil, Diana,
he said, lowering his head. The heat of her scowl made his skin crawl.
You know what? I hope your children end up exactly like you,
she cursed. With that, she opened the window and climbed down the ladder. Elias listened to the wet smack of the rope hitting the blob just under his window frame. One day, it was going to eat the ladder. If he wanted to save himself, he needed to leave soon. But if he left and his extended family refused to take him in, he would be homeless. Was homelessness his only option? Was it not better to be homeless and alive than to die in his room? Nothing stopped him from leaving and never coming back. So why did he keep returning to the dissolving house? Why was a familiar death trap more comforting than unfamiliar safety? If it kills you, it will be your fault. Elias was not the most important person in the world. Most days, he did not feel like the main character in his own life. If he died, the universe would not celebrate or mourn his passing. If he died. Death was for other people whose perspectives he would never experience. He was no main character, but how could the credits roll on him? How could the curtains fall, the lights go out, the TV switch off? How could he die when being alive was all he had ever known? Things were not fine, but his luck had to change at some point in the future. Maybe. He hoped. Until then, he waited for someone or something to save him. Elias ignored the gnawing at his bedroom door and draped the blanket over his head. Do you want to be a superhero? I have pills that will give you wonderful and unnatural abilities. I know that's hard to believe, so here, take this one for free. It's on me. Once you take it, the pill will allow you to see the veil between the normal world and the magic world. No, you're not going to hallucinate. See this wall? Once you take this pill, a door will appear. Ta-da! Follow me. I bet you want to learn more about these pills, huh? Superpower pill. Pills that give you superpowers, DM. Each one will give you abilities that will set you apart from the average folk. While they are pricey, you only need to take one to have powers for life. And you don't have to sell it for a single ability. The more you diversify your power set, the stronger you will become. I do have to warn you that all of these pills have side effects, but they're a small price to pay to be special. Also, these are not all the pills in my collection. If you decide to do business with me, I can show you more in the future. For now, here are your 4 options. Pill 1, Golden Touch. Ability. At will, you are able to turn any object you touch into whatever currency you desire. Dollar bills, British pounds, even gold and silver coins. Since you can control when this ability affects the outside world, you don't have to worry about your food becoming a pile of cash or your loved ones turning into a golden statue. Never again will you have to worry about groceries or rent. Hell, you don't have to rent. You could buy a house. You could buy fancy clothes and go to expensive restaurants. You can live your life to the fullest without worrying about money ever again. Side effects. It might start as a headache, or maybe it will burn when you pee. But for most people, it starts as an ache in the chest. Your lungs will feel heavy. It hurts when you breathe in too much air. The walls of your throat get dry and scratchy. Then you'll cough. No matter how much water you drink or cold medicine you take, the cough never goes away. Just when you think it can't get any worse, you begin to notice bits of debris in your phlegm. The more of this debris you cough up, the more recognizable it becomes. Abraham Lincoln's ear on paper, Winston Churchill's eye on polymer, shavings of silver and gold. You may control when your abilities affect the outside world, but you can't control what it does to your body. Every time you use your powers, you are turning into currency. You can delay your death by minimizing the amount of times you activate your powers, but you cannot use your abilities without destroying yourself. One of my pills helps with this side effect, but that will be the last one I show you. Have to save the best for last after all. Pill 2, Spiritual Servant. Ability. You are able to summon magical helpers to do your bidding. You can summon multiple of these helpers, but each servant takes more energy from your body. I haven't heard of a person summoning more than 5 without passing out, so I wouldn't suggest you exceed that number. Do you hate doing the dishes? They'll do it for you. Hate your job? Hate school? They can pretend to be you and attend on your behalf. Want to fight crime, but don't want to get your hands dirty? They can comb the street looking for criminals without your supervision. These servants will only last a day before disappearing, and then you have to re-summon them. The more you summon at once, the longer you need to rest before you can summon them again. If you only summon 1 a day, then you need 8 hours of rest. If you summon 5 at the same time, then you need 40 hours of rest after they disappear. Side effects. As mentioned in the ability section, there is an energy cost to summoning spiritual servants, but it won't be hazardous to your health so long as you don't overdo it. A bigger problem will be the growing sense of paranoia. This paranoia won't feel strong right away, just a mild sense of being watched. At first you won't know where the sensation is coming from. Then you'll start to suspect that strangers are staring at you when your back is turned. You never catch them in the act, but somehow you know they were glaring at you. Then, when those around you decide to approach, they seem a bit too interested in your life, too friendly, too curious. Why are they so curious? Do they want to rob you? Hurt you? Slowly, the outside world will feel less safe. You'll become more reliant on servants to go outside on your behalf. Your unseen enemies can't get you if you stay home. But is your home truly safe? You should summon more servants to act as bodyguards. 2 guards should be enough. 4 guards would be better. But what if you need more than that? What if your enemies send armies after you? Maybe you should summon as many guards as you can, just to be safe. Pill 3, Super Speed. Oh, a classic. Ability. Are you tired of rush hour traffic? Do you want to get tasks done faster? Is there just not enough hours in the day? With Super Speed, you could do everything you want in the shortest amount of time. Why drive when running is quicker? Why take a day to read a novel when you can finish that same book in hours? Why do things slowly when you can do them faster? When you can run from point A to point B in seconds, it leaves you with more time to do other things throughout the day. When you pick up skills at a faster pace, you can achieve your goals in less time than the average person. If time won't slow down for you, then you have to speed up. Side effects. Time won't slow down for you, but it will sure feel like it after a while. Now that you're so fast, what was once a normal speed is now painfully slow. Your barista takes 3 minutes to make your drink, when you could have made it yourself in 1 minute. A friend takes 10 seconds to tie their shoes, when you could have tied them in 5. Everyone is sluggish. Everyone wastes time doing simple tasks. If dealing with slow people is irritating, dealing with slow machines is maddening. Your microwave cooks food for 5 minutes, but it feels like 5 hours. Your washing machine takes forever to clean your clothes. Numbers on the clock refuse to change no matter how long you look at it. Unlike physical tasks, you can't make machines operate faster. These are not the only side effects. Faster movement means faster metabolism. You have to eat constantly or you feel like you're starving. You also can't run for too long or your joints will wear away, though my last pill will help with that issue. I suppose I've stalled long enough. Here's the final pill. Pill 4, Eternal Youth. Ability. You will stop aging at 25 years old. If you are older than 25, you will age backwards until you become 25 again. From this point onward, you are functionally immortal. Functional immortality means that, while there is one thing that can kill you, which we will discuss later, you will not die of injury, illness, or old age. No longer will you have to race against the clock, rushing to achieve your dreams before you become too infirm to do so. You will always be in your prime. Your joints will never wear down, your health will never fail, your mind will stay sharp, and your skin will have no wrinkles. You will be free from the slow degradation of time. While this pill can't minimize all side effects from the other pills, it will counteract many downsides. Golden Touch won't kill you, being immortal will help decrease the paranoia from Spiritual Servant, and your joints won't wear down from super speed. Side effects! Now you might think that the downsides of this pill is your typical immortality angst. Seeing your loved ones die, the human race evolving into something you no longer recognize, surviving the heat death of the universe, etc. And yes, you will have to deal with all of that too, but these issues will not be your primary concern. Remember how I said that you're functionally immortal? You're probably wondering what can kill you if you take this pill. Well, you need to drink human blood. To put it in less eloquent terms, you have to drain people bone dry. If you go over 2 weeks without doing this, then your body will rot away, chunk by fleshy chunk, until you die. Are you a vampire? No. You can still go out during the day and eat normal food. You can still enter churches without bursting into flames, though I doubt God will appreciate you drinking his children like juice boxes. Oh, almost forgot to mention, you can't drain any random person you come across. The blood must come from someone who has taken a superpower pill, pills that give you superpowers TM. Ideally, your victim will have taken multiple pills. The more pills they take, the longer their blood will satisfy you. If you try to cheat and drain a normal civilian, you will still rot and die. Now that seems a bit unfair, doesn't it? You have to drink loads of blood every other week. How are you supposed to find enough people who have taken these pills? Well, I have a suggestion. You could start selling the pills yourself. You can go town to town, asking hapless idiots if they want to be a superhero. And to prove that your pills work, you can offer 1 or 2 for free. That way, even if they decide not to buy anything, you still have a juice box you can drink from. Yes, it's scary to know that there are superpowered people out there who want to suck all the blood from your body. But remember, the more pills you take, the stronger you will be. So, how many pills would you like to buy? At the bottom of the ocean, far from mortal eyes, resided a kingdom. The people of this kingdom looked human from the waist up, but they had fish tails where their legs should be. The males were called mermen, and the females were called mermaids. The king of the merfolk was once kind and soft, but his heart grew cold at the loss of his wife. The queen had delivered 6 daughters, 1 girl a year, without issue. However, complications with the 7th daughter weakened the queen's body, and she perished shortly after giving birth. The 7th daughter was the smallest of the girls, but her dainty stature only added to her charm. She was the fairest of the king's children, with long flowing hair, expressive eyes, and a warm smile. She moved through the water with a dancer's grace, had scales on her fins that glimmered like stars, and had the most beautiful singing voice in all the 7 seas. The king, consumed with grief, was blind to the precious pearl that was his youngest child. Though she was of royal blood, he treated her like a servant, forcing her to scrape algae off the castle walls and clear the gardens of seaweed. Whenever she complained, the king reprimanded her. "The queen sacrificed her life for you. I lost my lovely wife for you," he said. "Do not complain, be grateful." "But I did not ask to be born," the little mermaid said. Angered at the response, the king sent her to her chambers without supper. Though the mistreatment saddened the princess, she took refuge in learning all she could of the surface world, which interested her greatly. The king decreed that his daughters must be 15 years of age before they could see the land of humans with their own eyes, but that did not stop the girl from collecting artifacts that fell to the bottom of the ocean. Cracked pots, dull hair combs, wedding bands, fishing hooks. Nothing was too small or too broken to be treasured by the princess. Still, these items were not enough to quell her desire to see the surface herself. She waited patiently for the day she became 15. When the eldest sister turned 15 and visited the surface, the little mermaid did not ask her to bring back a keepsake, as she heard stories of how dangerous the surface world could be. However, the eldest returned with a hand mirror. The little mermaid was happy for the gift, until the eldest sister demanded one of her glimmering scales as payment. "I fought and stole for you, risked my very soul for you," the eldest sister said. "Do not complain, be grateful." "But I never asked for a mirror," the little mermaid said. The eldest sister snarled before ripping a scale off the poor girl's tail. With every year that passed, another of the king's daughters would come of age and swim to the surface. The little mermaid never asked for gifts, but her sisters would give her one regardless. Silk sheets, hairpins, even a bust statue of a handsome boy. Anything they could get their hands on, they gave it to her. However, they always asked for one of her scales as payment. Whenever she tried to resist, they would rebuke her. "We did this and that for you, suffered great combat for you," the sisters would say before ripping off the scale. "Do not complain, be grateful." When the little mermaid turned 15, 6 large scars dotted her once spotless tail. Yet her excitement over finally seeing the world of men caused her to forget about old wounds. She swam through the surface like a star shooting across the sky. Once her head reached the water and touched cool air, the first thing she saw was a massive ship. The occupants of the ship were buzzing with laughter and merriment. After swimming closer to the ship, she realized that the sailors were celebrating the birthday of a prince. It took some time before she could catch a glimpse of him through the cabin window, but it was worth the wait. He was the most handsome boy she had ever seen, far more handsome than the bust statue gifted to her. The little mermaid wanted so badly to climb on board the ship, but worried the humans would reject her. Their legs were so different from her scarred tail. What if they thought she was disgusting for being half fish? Before she could overcome her fear, a storm rolled in. It knocked the ship back and forth, frightening the passengers. The prince tried to keep everyone calm, but then a mighty wave swept him off the boat and into the sea. The little mermaid was happy that he fell off until she remembered that humans could not breathe water like she could. Knowing he would drown if she did not rescue him, she swam toward the boy. The waves resisted her attempts to reach the prince, but she fought through the currents to get to him. By the time she hooked her arms around his torso, the prince had lost consciousness. She used the last of her strength to lift his head above water and bring them both to shore. She rested with him on the beach until she heard a human drawing near. Fearing their reaction to seeing her, the little mermaid hid behind large rocks that darted out of the water. From there, she watched the human, a girl around the prince's age, wake him up and help him to his feet. Relieved that he was in good health, the little mermaid began the long journey home. However, as she was on her way back to the castle, a thought troubled her. Since the prince awoke after she left his side, he had no way of knowing she was the one who saved him. This would be less upsetting if she could see him again, but what if he did not wish to see her? What if he thought her scarred tail was disgusting? Oh, if only she were human, then she could stay by his side forever. The little mermaid paused. In the darkest, deepest part of the ocean lived a sea witch. The witch, through strange and unknown magic, was able to do incredible things. If anyone could make her human, the witch could. So instead of going home, the little mermaid ventured into the dark sea. The witch was waiting for her when the princess entered her domain. The witch, already knowing her desires, explained that the pain of having human legs would feel like walking on sharp knives. Standing or sitting would offer no relief. If the prince chose to marry her, the pain would vanish and she would spend the rest of her life as a human. However, if the prince married another, she would turn into sea foam the next morning. "I have wit, I have charm, and I saved him from harm," the little mermaid said. "He will be grateful and marry me." "But you will not have your pretty voice," said the sea witch, "for that is what I require as payment for my services." Though the little mermaid hesitated for a moment, she agreed to the payment. No price was too high for human legs and a future with the prince. The witch cut out the tongue from the little mermaid's mouth. The brave girl bore the terrible pain without complaint. It took a week to create the potion. The princess was so anxious to have it that she did not leave the witch's side while the potion was being crafted. Once it was complete, the witch handed it to the excited princess. The girl swam out of the dark waters and to the shore without saying goodbye to her family. Once seated on the beach where she left her prince not so long ago, she drank the potion. pain that followed was so excruciating, she would have screamed herself hoarse if she still had a voice. The hurt was worse than any plucked scale or cut tongue. It felt as if someone took a sword and sliced her in half. Even after her tail turned into a pair of legs, the suffering continued. By the earth below and heaven above, no one has suffered this much for love, the little mermaid thought before the pain made her lose consciousness. He will be grateful and marry me. In the morning, she awoke to the prince shaking her shoulder. The prince had been walking along the beach when he spotted her and, believing she needed help, rushed to her side. Now that he had a closer look at her, he was charmed by her pretty face and earnest eyes. When he asked where she lived, she looked at him with a sad longing that made his chest ache. Assuming she had no place to call home and unable to bear the thought of a pretty maiden living on the street, the prince brought her to live in his palace. The little mermaid became a light in the prince's life. Her beauty eclipsed all who lived in the castle. The grace of her movements surpassed the court dancers, and though she could not speak, she offered her shoulder to lean on when he needed to vent his frustrations. While the pain in her legs turned every waking moment into an ordeal, she was happy living among humans. So when her sisters finally found her, she had no desire to reunite with them. Even as they waited near the shore, singing mournful songs, she stayed by the beach with her toes firmly in the sand. A year passed, and the prince decided that it was time to get married. He brought the little mermaid to the beach where she first gained her legs. She was convinced he would propose to her there. Instead, a lovely girl ran up to meet him. This had been the same girl who helped the prince to his feet after the little mermaid brought him to shore. The prince explained that the lovely girl helped him to recover on the day he nearly drowned. He felt indebted to her ever since, his thoughts with her even when they were apart. So now that he was of marrying age, he would take her as his wife. He brought his mute friend to the engagement because he wanted her to share in their joy. Joy was the furthest thing from the little mermaid's mind, for she knew she would soon die. Months rushed by in a miserable blur. Before she knew it, the prince and his new bride were wed. The reception took place on a grand ship, where the partygoers danced the night away. The little mermaid could not bring herself to bear the pain of dancing when she knew her life would end come sunrise. As she moped near an isolated part of the ship, her 6 sisters suddenly breached the water nearby. The hair on their head, which once flowed down to their waists, were cut short. The eldest sister tossed a knife at her feet, explaining that all 6 had offered up their hair in order to save her from this predicament. The sea witch promised that, if the little mermaid plunged the knife through the prince's heart, she would not turn to sea foam come sunrise. Instead, she would return to her original form, free to live the rest of her life in the kingdom under the waves. "After everything you did for him, do you deserve a fate so grim?" asked her sisters. "He is ungrateful. End his life." The little mermaid waited until the festivities settled down for the night. She waited a bit longer to ensure that the prince and his bride were asleep, then snuck into their chambers. She approached the couple's bed, knife gripped tightly in her hand. Her foot pressed down on a loose floorboard just as she reached the prince's side. The prince, being a deep sleeper, did not react to the noise. His new bride, on the other hand, woke up with a start. As soon as the new bride noticed the knife, she flung herself on top of her husband. The little mermaid stared at her in open-mouthed shock as the bride pleaded for mercy, offering up her own life in exchange for the prince's safety. Her fretting woke up the prince, who immediately put himself between her and the weapon the moment he saw it. The little mermaid trembled as a realization dawned on her. She was certain that the prince, if he had not been fighting against stormy waters, would have begged for aid after being knocked off the ship. Yet saving him did not require cutting off her tongue, or enduring knife-like pain in her legs, or risk being turned into sea foam. He never would have asked her to torture herself. The prince was willing to put his life on the line for his wife. The wife was willing to sacrifice herself to protect her new husband. They did not do this with the expectation of receiving pretty scales or algae-free walls. They only wished to keep each other safe. A true gift. The little mermaid ran out of the lover's room, clean knife in hand. She leapt from the side of the ship just as the sun rays crested over the horizon. She did not wish to die, but as her body turned into foam, a sense of peace enveloped her mind. Nothing lasts forever, she thought, so if she must go, Better for her last act in life to be a selfless one. In 2024, the disappearance of a 12-year-old girl inside a condominium would puzzle law enforcement and the small borough community at large. Orpha Foth was a thin girl with brown hair and brown eyes. By all accounts, she grew up in a healthy household in Smallborough, Ontario. Born to a middle-class family, she lived on the 10th floor of the condo with her mother, father, and 2 older brothers. Her parents doted on all their children, but gave special attention to Orpha due to her sleep issues. Since the age of 4, Orpha suffered horrible night terrors. According to the family, nothing minimized her nightly struggles. Therapy was ineffective, medication did nothing, even something as simple as sleeping with a nightlight offered no comfort. When asked, Orpha claimed not to remember what her nightmares were about. Though nothing stopped the night terrors, it was noted that certain things worsened the condition. Her bedroom had to be completely absent of the color green. She had to sleep with a bonnet since she would have panic attacks if anything touched her hair at night. Most notably, sleeping next to her parents caused night terrors so severe that it incapacitated her for the entirety of the following day. It is a natural instinct for young children to run to their parents after having a bad dream, so Orpha's adverse reaction to sleeping next to her parents became a point of interest for the authorities after her disappearance. Suspicion was placed heavily on her father, Richard, who, despite being cooperative with the police, acted very strange and subdued throughout the investigation. He struggled keeping eye contact with the police and would only give one-word answers if not prompted to speak more. One officer described him as looking like he was always on the verge of admitting something. Despite Richard's suspicious behavior, he had a strong alibi for the day Orpha disappeared. On Tuesday, May 14, 2024, Richard left the condominium for his job at an office. Daisy, the mother, got the 3 children ready for school. They left their condo on the 10th floor and took the elevator down to the parking lot level. However, before they stepped off the elevator, Orpha realized that she forgot her homework in her room. Thinking she would be fine on her own, Daisy gave Orpha the key to the condo and told her to return with her homework quickly. Then, at 7:45 a.m., Daisy and the 2 boys stepped off the elevator while Orpha stayed inside. According to the testimony of Daisy and the 2 boys, Orpha did not look distressed when the elevator door closed. Though the number display showed that the elevator reached the 10th floor, it is unknown if Orpha made it back to the condo. After 10 minutes passed and Orpha did not return to the parking lot, Daisy began to worry. She sent her sons back to the condo to get their sister. After a few minutes, the boys returned. They stated they did not find Orpha, but noted that her homework was still in her room. Sensing something was terribly wrong, Daisy called the police. After the police searched the condo and found no trace of Orpha, they checked the security camera. It should have been easy to see where she went from the footage taken inside the elevator, but a strange obstruction would thwart this important lead. After Daisy and the boys exited the elevator, footage showed Orpha patiently waiting to reach the 10th floor. When the elevator approached the 5th floor, several large bees crawled over the camera lens, blocking Orpha from view. When the bees finally moved from the camera, the elevator doors were opened on the 10th floor and Orpha was nowhere to be seen. Once the police concluded their investigation inside of the elevator, an exterminator was called to discover where the bees had come from. During the inspection, the exterminator claimed to hear buzzing inside of the control panel. He expected to find a hive inside the panel. Instead, he found a tangle of brown hair. While the length and texture resembled Orpha's hair, DNA testing came back inconclusive. In 2025, a bizarre break-in and child abduction would rock the city of Lucky South, Ontario. Acacia Goodman Cabello was a 13-year-old with black hair and brown eyes. She was the only child of her father Archie and mother Rebecca. The small family were very close to each other despite the constant trials they faced. Acacia spent most of her life in and out of mental hospitals due to her acute prosopagnophobia, fear of the color green. This fear was so pronounced that she became bedridden for days if she caught sight of the color. Since green is a predominant color in nature, it was near impossible for her to go outside without panicking. This, in turn, caused her to eventually develop agoraphobia, an anxiety disorder where the afflicted believe that outside environments are unsafe. Her mental health issues may have been exacerbated by bad sleeping habits. Acacia forced herself to stay awake throughout most of the night, getting an average of 4 hours of sleep. She complained of nightmares that kept her from getting proper rest, but noted that the nightmares felt less severe when she minimized the amount of sleep she received. When asked what her nightmares were about, she claimed not to know but stated that whatever happened in her dream was unfair. She could not elaborate on what she meant by unfair. On Wednesday, May 14, 2025 at 1:02 a.m., Acacia woke up from one of the worst night terrors she ever had. Rebecca and Archie reported that they'd never seen her so panicked from a nightmare. It took her 3 hours to calm down. She spent most of those hours in the kitchen with all the lights on, holding a pair of scissors and pacing the room. Once she relaxed, she spent another hour watching television in the living room before Rebecca convinced her to return to bed. In order to accommodate her mental health issues, Acacia was homeschooled by Rebecca. Due to the awful night terrors she had, Rebecca decided not to teach her that day. Acacia did not exit her room that morning, but her unstable sleep schedule meant it was not uncommon for her to skip breakfast. When lunch came and went without Acacia leaving her room, Rebecca was not concerned. She assumed Acacia needed all the rest she could get after being in a frantic state for most of the night. Not wanting to interfere with her rest, Rebecca did not enter the room to check on her daughter. When Archie came home from work at 6 p.m. and Acacia still had not left her room, Rebecca decided to check up on her. At this point, she was concerned that Acacia somehow caught sight of the color green and had become bedridden. When she opened the bedroom door and turned on the light, she saw a human-shaped lump under the bedsheets. Since the lump moved ever so slightly, she thought it was her daughter breathing. However, when she pulled the sheets off the lump, what she saw nearly made her faint. A massive nest, crawling with hundreds of wasps, laid in the center of the bed. The nest was covered in long black hairs. Acacia was nowhere to be seen. Somewhere between 5 a.m. and 6 p.m., Acacia had left the house and was replaced with insects. Initially, the police believed that Acacia ran away. Dealing with Acacia's mental health issues put an emotional and financial strain on her parents, so it was thought that guilt may have compelled the teenager to leave. But her parents said that they made sure she never felt like a burden. Even if Acacia believed running away would help her parents, prasinophobia and agoraphobia would have prevented her from going outside. The police soon treated the investigation as a kidnapping case, though it was hard to find any leads. There was no sign of forced entry, no fingerprints belonging to someone outside the family, and none of the neighbors saw anything out of the ordinary. There was also the issue of the wasp nest. How could someone, or even a group of people, kidnap a girl and replace her with a nest without anyone hearing or seeing the commotion? Suspicion quickly grew on the parents. The police began to suspect that they hurt their daughter and were using the wasps as a means to sow confusion throughout the investigation. This suspicion grew after Rebecca suffered a psychotic breakdown. During this period of mental collapse, she kept saying that Acacia's disappearance was all her fault. However, whenever the police questioned her, she continued to insist that she did not hurt her daughter. Though Archie and Rebecca were briefly arrested, a lack of evidence forced the police to release them. In Badbury, a town sandwiched between Smallborough and Lucky South, two alarming events would shake the people who lived there. Melissa Vestba was a 34-year-old single mother. Both she and her daughter Mary had red hair and green eyes. Though they lived below the poverty line and sometimes struggled to keep their house, the two of them were very happy and kind people. On Thursday, May 12, 2005, Mary, who was 12 years old at the time, failed to come home from school. Since Melissa worked late and could not afford a babysitter, she did not realize that anything was wrong until 8 p.m. when she came home to an empty house. She immediately called the police, who began a thorough search of the path Mary would have taken to get home. 2 days later, they found Mary's body in the woods halfway to her house. Her neck was bruised and her hair was crudely cut off with a sharp object, presumably scissors. The forensic pathologist concluded that something had pressed down on her neck, blocking off oxygen until she suffocated. The pathologist theorized that two people were involved in her passing, one person who kneeled down on Mary to keep her still, and another who cut her hair. He believed that the death may have been unintentional, as it seemed like the main goal was to cut the hair. Therefore, whoever kneeled on her might not have realized they prevented her from breathing until it was too late. Since it rained heavily on the 2 days it took to find Mary's body, most of the evidence washed away. However, 2 children were labeled as potential suspects. Many students at Mary's school bullied her due to her poverty and bright red hair, but multiple witnesses saw two particular bullies with Mary before she went missing. Since they were both underage, their identities were hidden from the public, but an anonymous source leaked that one of the suspects was a 12-year-old boy and the other was a 13-year-old girl. While Melissa was not given the names of the suspects, she became convinced that the boy belonged to the Foths and the girl belonged to the Cabellos. She began harassing both families, demanding that their children confess to the crime. Though the Foths and Cabellos issued restraining orders against her, both families continued to receive threatening voice messages and letters. On Saturday, September 10, 2005, the day before Melissa went missing, Philip, a close friend of hers, reported that she went to his house drunk and ranted for hours. While Philip struggled to understand most of what she was saying, she made it very clear that she wanted revenge. One of the last things she said before leaving his house was, "They will know what it's like to lose a daughter." Since the Foths had no daughters, Philip believed the Cabellos were about to be targeted. Concerned that she might do something drastic, he called the police on Melissa the next day. When the police arrived at her house, the front door was unlocked. Though everything inside looked normal, they could not find Melissa. While the police continued to search for her, the Foths and the Cabellos made calls to the station. Both families found a green eyeball staring at them on their front porch. The eyeballs were covered in wasps and bees. Testing later confirmed that both eyes belonged to Melissa Vespa. Though it should have been easy to find a woman with no eyes, there has yet to be any new sightings of Melissa. The identities of Mary's killers have also never been found. Her name was Talia, but everyone called her Sleeping Beauty. It had been 5 years since the new queen was brought to the castle. Robert, the royal cook, still found her story fascinating and alarming in equal measure. Unlike the other servants, he did not make a habit of gossiping about the matter, but he replayed the story in his head multiple times. 105 years ago, Sleeping Beauty's father and mother, king and queen of the neighboring land, held a grand feast in celebration of their child's birth. The parents concerned themselves about the child's appearance more than her well-being, dressing the baby in heavy jewels and rough cloth made to impress rather than comfort. 7 fairies were ordered to attend the feast and bless the newborn. The oldest of the fairies had grievances with the family, as she was disrespected by them in the past. The king invited her anyway, since he would not deprive himself of a blessing that would elevate his bloodline. One by one, each fairy approached the crib to offer their blessing. However, the king and queen did not let the fairies choose their own gift. The royal pair dictated what each blessing would be. "Make her the most beautiful girl in the world. I will not suffer an ugly child. Give her an angelic voice. No daughter of mine will croak like a toad. Make all her movements graceful. A princess should not be clumsy," and so forth. The old fairy trembled with rage when it was her turn to approach the crib. She could not believe that humans had the gall to bully magical beings. Ignoring the demands of the king and queen, and not caring that the baby was innocent, the old fairy snarled, "When your brat turns 15, she will pierce her hand on a spindle and die." Enraged, the king pulled out his sword. "Take back this curse, or I will have your head," he demanded. "Then have my head," the old fairy said. "I will not take back the curse." With one swing of his sword, the king lopped the old fairy's head off her shoulders. He then ordered the 7th fairy, who had not yet given her blessing, to undo the curse. "I cannot completely undo the spell of my elder," the 7th fairy said, fearing for her life. "Your daughter will still pierce her hand, but she will not die. Instead, she will sleep for 100 years. Not satisfied with this lesser misfortune, the king ordered the destruction of all spindles. Anyone who refused to give up this tool was labeled a traitor to the kingdom and executed. 14 years passed without the princess ever laying eyes on a spindle. Though she knew of the fate destined for her, she was never allowed to voice her concerns. Mentioning the old fairy or the curse would get her whipped for distressing the queen or angering the king. On her 15th birthday, when her parents attended a party in a foreign land, the princess pricked her finger on a spindle and fell into a deep sleep. No one knows how this occurred. The princess claimed that, while wandering the palace in a state of boredom, she happened upon an old woman spinning yarn. Apparently this woman was unaware of the ban on spindles or the curse, so welcomed the princess to try the spindle herself when the young girl asked. This seems improbable, since the king's punishment for keeping spindles was known and feared in equal measure. It is more likely that she sought out a spindle, but to what end? Perhaps she hoped to conquer her fate, as if willpower alone could help her resist the old fairy's magic. Perhaps she did not want to spend the entirety of her teen years living in fear, so pricked her finger to get the curse over with. Or perhaps she welcomed the long sleep as a means of escaping her parents. Once her parents returned from their party and found their daughter unconscious, they used everything at their disposal to wake her. The king and queen begged doctors, magicians, and fairies for aid. Those who did not act out of pity were bribed to help. Those whose assistance could not be bought were threatened. The pleading, bribing, and threats led nowhere, as none could wake the princess. Appalled by their powerlessness, the king and queen developed bitter feelings towards the princess. Her magical sleep was a constant reminder of their failings, so they placed her in the cellar, bricked up its doors, and forgot about her. In the 100 years that passed, what remained of the royal family suffered misfortune after misfortune. Eventually they left the castle, believing it to be cursed. Thieves picked at the palace's innards like vultures. Though many attempts were made, none could enter the cellar. However, the multiple attempts to get into the cellar weakened the bricks. The princess's future husband entered the castle in the hopes of ransacking the cellar. He had a hunger for aged wines and refused to let mere bricks stop him from quenching his thirst. To his surprise, he barely needed to touch the barrier for the bricks to crumble out of his way. Once the dust cleared, his attention was captivated not by the barrels of wine or bottles of spirits lining the walls, but by the fair maiden placed in the center of the room. Time had not touched her beautiful face and luxurious clothes. Overtaken by passion, he leapt upon her. 9 months later, the princess awoke screaming as she gave birth to twins, a boy named Sun and a girl named Moon. The father of the babies, who had been visiting the princess weekly, overheard the screams and rushed to her side. Once the delivery concluded, he explained that he was the ruler of the neighboring kingdom, and that she was to be his queen from this moment forth. And so he took Sleeping Beauty from the crumbling remains of the only home she had ever known. Few cared about how alien she felt after a century of slumber. She was constantly bombarded by strange phrases, odd fashion, and mind-boggling world events. The future was scary, and she was given very little time to adjust. Yet the king and his servants, blinded by their joy of having a beautiful queen, did not concern themselves with her distress. The royal cook and his wife, Rose, were the only ones who took pity on Sleeping Beauty and her children. They comforted her when she became overwhelmed. The cook gave the twins sweets whenever they started fussing, and his wife tended to them when the queen needed a break. Sleeping Beauty came to love the cook and his wife as her new parents, and the twins referred to the pair as Grandpa and Grandma. The king's mother disliked Sleeping Beauty and her children, but wanted Sun, Moon, and the queen to love her. She loathed the queen calling anyone else mother, or the twins calling anyone else grandma. Still, she knew if she got rid of the cook's wife, the cook himself would still be gifted the love she believed solely belonged to her. The king's mother stewed with jealous rage for years. When she could no longer tolerate her anger, she waited until the king left on a hunting trip so he could not protest her evil plan. Then she called the cook to her chambers. "Loyal cook," said the king's mother, "I wish to have Sun for supper tomorrow. I want his flesh on a plate with his curly hair as garnish." "My goodness," cried the cook. "Do it," commanded the king's mother, "or you and your wife will lose your heads." Concerned for his wife's safety, the cook took a knife from the kitchen and sought out Sun. When he found the boy, the little prince hugged his leg. In the sweetest voice, the boy asked for candy. The cook wept. He could not harm him. After bringing Sun to his wife and telling her to hide him in their lodgings, the cook killed a lamb. He roasted the meat, lathered it in sauces, and used its fur to garnish the meal. The king's mother made a mess of herself at supper time, eating with her hands and devouring the meat like a pig. She said it was the best meal she ever had. The next day, the king's mother demanded to have Moon for supper. The cook did not complain, deciding to trick the vile woman again. He brought Moon to his wife before killing and roasting another lamb. Though the king's mother was once again very pleased with her meal, her evil appetite could not be satisfied for long. "I want the queen for supper tomorrow," the king's mother told the cook, mouth covered with lamb grease. "I shall gobble her up, limb by limb, and leave her pretty little face for last." The cook was at a loss. He did not know what animal could fool the king's mother. None had the face of a woman, especially not one as lovely as Sleeping Beauty. Out of options, he decided to slay the queen. Believing her children were dead, The queen spent all day and night crying in her room. Overcome with pity, the cook was unable to attack while her guard was down. Instead, with all the respect in the world, he told her about the orders he received from the king's mother. "Then do it," Sleeping Beauty said, her sorrow leaving no room for fear. "Let me be with my children, so that I may finally know peace." The cook's heart broke. The queen suffered so much. Parents who cared more about keeping up appearances, an old fairy who used her as a tool for revenge, a man who forced himself upon her, a husband and servants who only saw her as a beautiful decoration, and a mother-in-law who only saw love as an ego boost. Throughout most of her life, no one cared for Sleeping Beauty. No one cared for Talia. If anyone concerned themselves with her welfare, she would have avoided so much pain. But the cook loved the queen. His wife loved her too. They could put a stop to her torment. "My good queen," the cook said through tears, "your children still live. Come with me." He then brought Talia to his lodgings and reunited her with the twins. When the king returned from his hunting trip, the cook's wife approached him in a distressed state. "My lord," she cried, "your mother has trapped the queen in the kitchen. Please talk some sense into her." The king rushed to the kitchen, followed closely by the cook's wife. Once they arrived, the queen and his mother were nowhere to be found. Before the king had time to realize he had been deceived, the cook, who had been hiding in a corner, pounced on the king and slayed him. As the cook roasted the body, the wife shaved the king's beard and put makeup on his face to disguise him as Talia. So ravenous in her vile hunger, the king's mother hardly waited for the cook to put the plates down before she began consuming the meat. She barely took a moment to breathe as she forced the food down her gullet. When she finally began eating the king's face, his nose got stuck in her throat. She tried to spit it out, but it would not budge. After a minute, her face became purple and she died. Though Talia now had full ownership of the kingdom, she had no interest in ruling. After allowing the castle to be taken over by the king's cousin, she departed to a faraway land with Sun, Moon, the cook, and his wife. The small family lived in peace for many years. When the cook and his wife eventually passed of old age, Talia placed these words on their shared tombstone: "Robert and Rose protected the scared, who fought and who dared, who always cared."
Bread, cheese, meat, vegetables. Wakey, wakey. Ah, good. You're still alive. Humans can go, 2 months without food? So long as you have water? Yes, water is very important. Won't make that mistake again. Drink up. Refreshing, isn't it? But you don't have to settle with just drinking water. You can always have food with your meal, so long as you play my game. Are you ready to play, or do you still think sandwiches are overrated? Oh, you want to play? I'm so glad you finally decided to do this. Let's get started. Today, I'll be using D6s, D12s, and D20s. You're confused? Oh, the D stands for dice, and the numbers are for how many sides the dice have. So D6 means it's a dice with 6 sides. D12. Oh, you're confused about what these dice are made out of. Silly me. The guest I had before you was an elf. A very handsome man. The smoothest skin and pointiest ears I have ever seen. Unfortunately, he refused to play my game, so he eventually starved. It seemed like such a waste to get rid of his body. Nothing I could do about the rotting parts, but his bones were quite sturdy. So I decided to turn them into dice. I hope hearing that didn't ruin your appetite. Oh, don't be scared. This is just a dice tower. I'll drop the dice at the top, it goes through the tower, and it'll come to a stop at the bottom. No need to be so jumpy. I won't hurt you unless the dice tell me to. Now let's roll for bread. 3. Unicorn milk bread. A very fluffy bread that is usually cut into thick slices. It has a sweet taste from the unicorn milk, so it's sometimes used for desserts. But the sugar in the bread is mild enough that a savory sandwich won't interfere with the flavor. Good start for now. Would you like the bread toasted? It won't take much energy out of me. It's just a cantrip. Okay, time to toast. You have a lovely unicorn farm, by the way. It's a blessing to work with such majestic beasts. And it's a sign of your hardiness, too. Those horns are no joke. I bet you must be worried about your animals, but you don't need to be. I didn't see any farmhands on your property, so I opened up all the gates before I brought you back to my place. I wasn't going to let those beautiful creatures wither away in their pens. I'm not cruel. Let's roll for Maine. I hope you get something good, because this is going to be the star of your sandwich, assuming other ingredients don't overpower it. 7. Pigman ham. Very fat, very salty cold cuts. The sweetness and thickness of the bread will help soak up much of the meat's flavor. Many of our neighbors still debate on whether pigmen count as, well, men, but our king has declared them as wild animals, so you won't get in trouble for eating this. Though I bet you have no qualms about eating pigmen. Yeah, I noticed that scar on your shoulder. Had a nasty run-in with those pests, huh? You're lucky you didn't lose the arm. You really are a tough one, aren't you? I made the right call taking you in your sleep. Now let's roll for cheese. 4. Mozzarella of the marsh. Also known as fairy cheese, this is not actually made out of dairy. It's a mushroom that grows near marshes and swamps. I know I should have put this in the roughage section, but this doesn't taste like mushrooms at all, so I thought it was better suited here. The saltiness of the fairy cheese is mild, but since the ham is already salty, you might need more water with this. Speaking about water, thanks again for saving me. I know you must think otherwise, but I am a good swimmer. I was just tired that day. It was embarrassing to be rescued from such a shallow lake, but the embarrassment was worth meeting you. What was your name again? Ah, right. Lovely name. Now it's time for roughage. Roughage is basically plant food. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, stuff like that. I don't mean to patronize, you just looked confused. Anywho, I'll roll 2 dice for the roughage. 11 tomatoes and 4 mimi berries. Both the tomatoes and mimi berries will add more sugar and freshness to the sandwich, and help offset the saltiness of the meat and cheese. The acidity of the tomatoes will complement the fairy cheese very well, and the mimi berries, well, you already know what those taste like. Yes? Yes, you do. It was in the thank you pie I gifted you. I told you it was bunberry pie, but, I lied. It was easy to lie since bunberries and mimi berries taste the same. Do you know why they're called mimi berries? Because, if you eat too much, it makes you go, me. Don't worry, the amount I put in this sandwich won't make you fall asleep. Now for my favorite part, the wild magic roll. As you can see on this list, most of these options contain no spells. The reason why I refer to this section as wild magic is because I like how weird and unexpected these options are. Natural 20! Good for you! Now you get to choose anything on this list, or any ingredient you want. The key? You want the key to your shackles. Well, I can't say I ever had anyone ask for that before. Say what you will about me, but I never interfere with the rules of a game. The dice landed on a 20, so if you want the key, you will have it. But the key needs to be an ingredient. Ingredient. Which means it goes in the sandwich. Once it passes through your system, you can do whatever you like with it. But you have to eat the key. Do we have a deal? Oh. Oh, I like you. Keep this up, and you'll become my new favorite guest. Okay, the key is going in the sandwich. Last but not least, the sauce roll. 1 body part. Don't panic, it might not be too bad. Pick a card. Whichever one you choose will be the body part I put in the sandwich. Come on, don't be shy. Hair. Lucky you. Clean hair doesn't have much of a taste. but it's been a week since you washed any part of your body, so I imagine the hair will be a greasy and musky addition to the sandwich. Also, if you're thinking, body parts aren't sauce, well, yeah. If you had chosen your fingers or your eyes, I would have blended them up until it turned to a spreadable paste. I'm not going to do that to the hair, though, since it's easy to put in the sandwich. Let's get our sandwich closed up. Get our toothpicks in to hold them together. Get it? Toothpicks. Because there's teeth on the ends. The teeth also belong to my elf guest. And let's get it cut in half. Now let's take a look at that cross-section. Aside from the hair and the key, this is a pretty normal sandwich. Here's the half with the key. I'll let you eat this half too, I just want to try a bite. This is, thanks to the bread, tomato, and mimi berries, this sandwich isn't as salty as it could be, and the ham masks the taste of the hair. Oh, but the hair gives the sandwich a horrible mouthfeel. It's like greasy, stringy, thin, dried worms in my mouth. Ugh, yuck. If we had a proper sauce like mustard or mayonnaise, it would have helped with that and made the sandwich less dry. Mouthfeel aside, it's still edible. This certainly could have turned out way worse. Even if it had been disgusting, I'm sure you wouldn't be picky. Standards tend to lower when you haven't eaten for a week. Flavor-wise, I'd give this a 6.5, but texture-wise, it's a 4.5. I'll split it in the middle and say it's a 5 out of 10. I'll call this one the hairy ham. Anyway, don't take this meal for granted. You might roll something worse tomorrow. Enjoy!
Before her mother passed from illness, the girl who would one day be called Cinderella was an amazing child. Kind-hearted, patient, thoughtful, and mild-tempered, she was a blessing to all who knew her. Though her parents were wealthy and hardworking, they never neglected their only child. She loved and was loved in return, but all the love in the world could not stop sickness from claiming the mother. As she felt her end draw near, she called her daughter to her bedside. Voice weak from fever but strong with conviction, she said, "I have suffered for years, felt every strain, no stranger to tears, no stranger to pain, yet never have I inflicted woes, got into conflict, or came to blows. It was unfair for me to suffer abuse, but my despair was never an excuse. So stay good and true, no matter the storm. Do not burn others to keep yourself warm." And with that last piece of wisdom, the mother closed her eyes and died with a smile on her face. The little girl mourned the loss of her mother, crying every day at her grave. The father used to join his daughter on these daily visits, but his tolerance for this somber routine wavered over time. He decreased his visits to every other day, then once a week, then once a month, then not at all. His avoidance of his late wife's resting place gave room in his heart for a new love, and soon the little girl had a stepmother and 2 stepsisters. All 3 of her new family members were beautiful, but their hearts were cold and cruel. They saw the little girl for the kind soul that she was, and it left an awful taste in their mouths. They hated people who, unlike them, were not tainted by the bitterness of the world. So the stepsisters refused to treat the little girl like a proper sibling. They stripped her of her pretty clothes, forced her into gray rags, and had her wear wooden shoes that gave her feet splinters. They made her work in the kitchen all day, giving her very little time to rest. When night fell, they refused to let her retire in her room, knocking her down onto the ashy hearth whenever she tried to rise. After another failed attempt to return to her room, the little girl asked her stepsisters why they were so terrible to her. They replied, "Father 1 pinched our ears, Father 2 lied. Father 3 drove us to tears, Father 4 died. Your dad is too weak to fill us with unease. Now we speak our minds, now we do as we please. So give us your dresses, do all our chores, clean up our messes, sleep on dirty floors. We deserve to be on top after what we went through. So stop your dramatics, we have no mercy for you." With no other choice, the little girl submitted to their demands. The kitchen became her new bedroom. Rarely could she leave the area unless she had chores to do somewhere else in the house. Isolated and lonely, she befriended animals for comfort. As days turned into years, the torment from her stepsisters never stopped. It only worsened after her father died of the same illness that took her mother. Ash from the hearth always clung to her skin and hair, making her dry and itchy. Irritable from the constant discomfort, she sometimes yelled at her animal friends unprovoked, or petted them hard enough to hurt. Still, she tried to remember her mother's last words. She tried to be good. When the girl reached adulthood, the king declared that there would be a ball. All the beautiful women of the kingdom were invited, so his son could choose a bride for himself. The stepsisters made the girl brush their hair and prepare their clothes for the ball. The girl did as she was told with a heavy heart. She wanted to go to the ball too. She asked the stepmother if she could attend alongside her stepsisters, but the stepmother kept coming up with excuses for why she could not go. What clothes would the poor girl wear? They were all dirty. What about her ashy skin and hair? No prince would want his future wife to be such an eyesore. The girl wept. She told her stepmother that she would have clean hair, skin, and clothes if she were cared for like a proper daughter. She asked why she had been mistreated for years. The stepmother replied, "You are not one of mine, so why should I care? And you had no time to learn true despair. I have slept in the gutter. I have slept in the rain. You whine and you mutter, but do you know pain? I have lost sons in war and sons at sea. Do you think you deserve more than me? I am owed grace after what I went through, so know your place. I have no mercy for you." With that, the stepmother and stepsisters left for the ball, leaving the girl alone. With nothing to think about but her loneliness and years of torment, her anger grew. The anger started in the pit of her stomach, then spread throughout her fingers, toes, and brain. When she could no longer contain it, she flung open the windows of her kitchen and screamed. Her animal friends, hearing her screams and wanting to help, surrounded her with haste. Once they were in the kitchen, Cinderella attacked. Though many animals escaped, not all of them were able to evade her swinging fists, flailing legs, and gnashing teeth. Once she felled enough of the poor creatures, she collected their feathers, furs, leather, and bones. As she fashioned the collection into a dress, she told herself, "I have suffered for years, felt every strain, no stranger to tears, no stranger to pain. I've had enough of doing what I am told, tired of sleeping rough, tired of the cold. No price is too high to stop the grief, no life too sacred to exchange for relief. I yearn for a prince to help weather the storm, so I burn what I must to keep myself warm." Everyone stared at Cinderella when she entered the ball. The odd patchwork of feathers, fur, leather, and bones covering her body was unlike anything the attendees had ever seen. The gown disquieted everyone, and the subtle hatred in her eyes made them keep their distance. But both the gown and its wearer were beautiful, so most believed she was a foreign princess. Her strange clothes and intense stare were not enough to deter the prince, who was immediately smitten. He stayed by her side and refused to have another dance partner. However, during their first dance, an injured bird landed on the prince's shoulder. It cried, "Like the girl, I used to be pretty. Then she stole feathers from me. If you want to be free of strife, do not take her as your wife." The prince shooed the injured bird away from his shoulder. It cried pitifully as it hobbled off. The couple pretended that the strange interruption never happened. However, during their second dance, a bald rabbit rested itself against the prince's leg. It cried, "Like the girl, I used to be fair. Then she tore out all my hair. If you want to be free of strife, do not take her as your wife." Cinderella was horrified. How many animals would tell the prince what she had done? As he shooed the bald rabbit from his leg, Cinderella ran away from the ball. She hoped that if she left, no one else would tell the prince her secret. However, she lost one of her slippers on a stairway while running off. The prince found the slipper in his search for her. As he reached down, he realized that the shoe was made up of tiny bones sewn together with wire. Then, much to his surprise, the bones spoke. "Like the girl, I used to live. This betrayal I cannot forgive. If you want to be free of strife, do not take her as your wife." The prince felt uneasy. Was his dance partner truly so bad? He did not want to believe it, for he could think of no one else beautiful enough to be his princess. Ignoring his growing worry, he decided to find her. The next day, the prince and his servants went house to house looking for his missing dance partner. When they reached Cinderella's house, the stepmother convinced the prince that the slipper belonged to one of the stepdaughters. She called her eldest into the room to meet the prince. When the prince tried to put the shoe on the eldest stepdaughter, the bone spoke. Fair and cruel is she, but this one did not kill me. Better people walk the earth, but who you want sleeps near a hearth. Scared by the talking shoe, the eldest stepsister ran away from the room and out the house. The stepmother told the prince that she had made a mistake. Her second daughter, not the eldest, had been his dance partner. She called her into the room to meet the prince. When the prince tried to put the shoe on the youngest stepsister, the bone spoke. Fair and cruel is she, but this one did not kill me. If you truly want no other, in the kitchen you will find her. The youngest stepsister, startled by the talking shoe, ran from the room and out the house. The stepmother tried to prevent the prince from entering the kitchen, but his servants blocked her path. As he walked, the prince asked the slipper for the name of his dance partner. The bone spoke. Cinderella was not her name until she brought herself shame. They called her every insult they could, but none were true when she was good. Now her soul is dark and her heart is cold. Nowhere in her will you find gold. Cinderella had spent all night and day trying to burn the dress made of her friends, but the macabre gown cried out whenever it got too close to the flames. She was still trying to burn it when the prince entered the kitchen with the slipper. His presence startled her greatly, and she dropped the dress in shock. Covered in rags and face smeared with ash, his former dance partner was unrecognizable to the prince. As the pair stared at each other, the bones of the slipper spoke. Fair and cruel is she, this is the one who killed me. Though your partner you did find, it's not too late to change your mind. The prince asked Cinderella to explain herself. The girl told him the sad tale of a dead mother, neglectful and dead father, uncaring stepmother, and cruel stepsisters. She explained that she only attacked her animal friends out of desperation. She needed the prince's approval so she could have a better life. Once Cinderella finished speaking, the prince replied, Your stepmother and sisters shall be thrown in a cell, and forced to atone for putting you through hell. I will help you move somewhere far away, or make it more comfortable here if you wish to stay. Though I know now what you had to endure, I disavow your actions. You did not remain pure. Grow past your mistakes. May you have a good life, but I will never take you as my wife. The prince left the kitchen, bone slipper in hand. Cinderella tried to run after the prince, but the servants blocked her path. Mad with grief and horror, she let out an animalistic cry. Do not leave me alone. My life is cold like stone. I want an end to the storm. I only wish to be warm. I only wish to be warm.
This is a special episode of
I bought cards from the shop today. Should I keep them all or throw them away?
There are two reasons why today is a special episode. This is the first time I'm live streaming the show to all of you at home. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you're on the toilet, clean your phone when you're done.
The second reason why this episode is so special? It's because I'll be explaining the lore behind all Blaglets that show up in these packs. I regularly get comments from people saying they're collecting for the first time, and many of these commenters say they're unfamiliar with the Blaglets TV show. They want to learn more, but the show has been going on for so long that it's intimidating to start. It would take me all day to go through the lore of every single character, but if you like this live stream, then maybe we could make it a weekly thing. Every Saturday, maybe? Let me know how you feel about this at the end of the stream, okay?
It's bagging time, says. You should lie about the lore. No one has to know.
I'm not lying about the lore. For anyone new to this channel, It's Bagging Time is my twin sister. She's also annoying, so don't listen to anything she says. Anyway, let's get started.
Why?
What was that?
Did you hear that?
Oh, okay. Never mind. Let's get started. And our first card today is Walletron. Oh, that's perfect. So those new to this hobby are probably confused about why the series and creatures are called Baglets. It's not so obvious now since most generations have creatures that look like animals, but when the series first started, the creatures used to resemble things you'd find in your bag or purse. Notebooks, lipstick, hand sanitizer, wallets, stuff like that. This theme lasted for 3 generations before they broadened out to
It's bagging time, says. Oh my god, I love Walletron. My favorite attack move is where he flies into your opponent's bank and steals their life savings. Unfortunately, Baglet Incorporated got rid of that attack after a 10-year-old robbed a bank in real life.
That's not true! Chat, don't listen to anything she says. Anyway, like the name suggests and as you can see here, Walletron is a baglet that looks like a wallet. It mainly acts as support for your team, boosting other baglets' attack and defense skills. It does have a thief ability, but it steals the opponent's attack points, not their money. It was a starter baglet in the first video game, but it was less popular than Lippy and Key King, since those two had better attacks. There haven't been many support starters since the first game, now that I think about it. Holy crap! Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Oh my goodness. I thought a car just slammed into my house. It was so loud. I looked everywhere, inside and outside the house, but I didn't see anything. Am I losing my mind? Am I having a stroke? No, I'm not ending the stream. It's just... Sorry. I thought things would run smoother today. I've only shown off one card. At this rate, I won't be able to get through the whole pack before the stream ends. Yeah, I'm okay.
Poop Revenge says, I love the sound of car accidents. It reminds me of my favorite baglet, Bus Boss, who runs over his enemies and grinds them to dust under his wheels.
Bus Boss does not do that. Look what you started, bagging time. Okay, next card. I'll try to go through them a bit faster since we've wasted so much time already. Key Prince, a de-evolution of Key King. He looks like a little keychain. Isn't that cute? He first shows up with other de-evolutions in Generation 10, when Baglet Incorporated attempted to go back to their roots. Outside of hardcore fans, Generation 10 didn't sell very well, so these de-evolutions are actually more valuable than you think. I might get this graded later.
Hungry for Boogers says, Psst, you didn't hear this from me, but if Key Prince gets graded 5 stars, you can be a whole $2 richer. You could buy your entire neighborhood with that kind of money.
Oh boy, I can't wait to retire with my whole $2. Seriously though, I think if Key Prince receives a 5-star grade, you could get roughly $600, though the price will probably go up if you wait longer. If you guys ever want me to do a breakdown about grading, I totally can. A car slammed into me. Why? Boss. For a while, this was the largest baglet in the series. It wasn't until Generation 13? 14? Which one was it again? Yeah, it was 13. Generation 13 was when they introduced buildling. I still think that's so funny. Imagine being in the baglet world, and you're some kid participating in your first baggy battle. You place your baglet in the ring, and your opponent throws an entire building at you. A whole building! How is that fair? Oh, another Bus Boss. It's rare to have the same card back to back. What else can I say about this guy? He doesn't run people over, Poop Revenge, he headbutts them. How does a bus headbutt anything? Well, watch the TV show and you'll see. Bus Boss again? What in the world? Am I being pranked right now? Oh wait. Oh. So the baglet community has this problem where scammers will open packs, take out the cards they want, fill the packs up with cards they don't want, reseal and then resell the tampered packs. Oh, no, don't get mad, chat. This is a good learning experience for newcomers. You need to know that this might happen so you can look out for scammers. I bought this pack from a trusted seller, but he also stocks up his store with packs he buys from other people. He's usually good about catching repackers though. That's a shame. I'll tell him what happened later. You need to know from what happened to me. Thank you, Flynn, for the $50. Cooper, thanks for another $50. Oh, so many people are donating. Thank you all so much. Wow. Okay, because there's so many of you donating, I'll make sure to individually thank all of you at the end of the stream. All of you are lovely. Thank you. Next card. And it's another Bus Boss. Okay, I'll tell you what. Everyone watching the stream right now will have a chance to get one of these cards sent to them. Hey, wait a minute. Is that... What in the world is this? Blackout? Crap. Is the stream still up? Good. I am okay, guys. Who is that? Who is who? Oh god. What are you doing in my house?
Time for
Revenge says,
you lie. No one
Hear
the sound of car accident.
your entire neighborhood.
no
Hear
The sound of car accident.
you steals my life. You steals life
Of
your
favorite
10-year-old. You
didn't.
loved me,
you got rid of
me,
after you
runs me over,
you
grinds me to dust,
after you
runs me over.
Tommy? Is that you? I thought you ran away. Where did you...
you lie.
The trolley is coming. You cannot see or hear it, but you know it will arrive due to a message written on the brick wall next to you. However, you are temporarily too distracted by your predicament to read the message in its entirety. For one, you are chained to the wall. The chain wraps around your neck, tight enough to be uncomfortable without restricting your breathing. No matter how hard you tug, you cannot free yourself. Your restraints prevent you from stepping off the tracks under your feet. There is a lever within reach, but it is clear that the lever will not help you escape. The 6 people in front of you are also incapable of freeing themselves. Rope binds their bodies to the cold metal and sandwiches their arms to their sides. The victim closest to you is alone on their track, thrashing hard enough to risk whiplash. The other 5 on the farthest track squirm with less intensity, presumably to avoid smacking their fellow captives.
Hey! What's going on?
You shout to the tied people. Dread, which had already pooled throughout your insides, grows until it threatens to crack your ribs. There is something wrong with your ears. You should have heard yourself clearly, but each word came out muffled when you shouted. You slap your hands to your ears, only to find a round obstruction blocking your palms. Is it headphones? Out of options and desperate for any way out, your attention returns to the text on the wall. The message reads, "A trolley is coming. You are not alone on this track. On the other side of the wall is a stranger in the same predicament as you. Both of you have access to a lever. Your construction-grade earmuffs prevent you from hearing each other. If neither of you pull your levers, the trolley will continue unimpeded through track A, your track, killing you both. If only one of you pulls the lever, then the trolley will divert to track B, killing one person. If both of you pull the lever, then the trolley will divert to track C, killing 5 people. Will you pull the lever or do nothing?" You do everything in your power to get the attention of the stranger on the other side of the wall. You scream, shake the chain, bang your fists against the brick. The more you struggle, the less you hear. Your heart beating like a mad drummer in your chest, the blood racing through your veins, and your desperate gasps for air smother the already muted cries leaving your mouth. You do not hear a response from the person on the other side. Then you feel it, a rumbling under the soles of your shoes. You whip around, startled and wide-eyed, in the direction opposite to the wall. In the distance, so far away your eyes struggle to focus, a shape appears. Though you cannot make out any details, you know what it is. The trolley. Your eyes dart to the lever. Your first instinct is to keep your hands clean. You are not a murderer. You did not put those 6 people on the track, but their blood will be on your hands if you act. There is just one problem. You do not want to die. Self-preservation is not evil. You are not a villain for wanting to save yourself. The real monster is whoever concocted the situation, but the scumbag who did this to you is not here to suffer the consequences of their actions. Maybe there will be arrests and court battles in the future, but until then, you need to find a way out of this mess. Perhaps doing nothing is the best course of action. The stranger on the other side of the wall is in a more anxiety-inducing position than you. While the wall may or may not prevent them from feeling the vibrations of the oncoming trolley, it does obstruct their view of the approaching vehicle. There is a timer counting down to their end, but they have no way of knowing if that timer has seconds or hours left. The stress of that alone should be enough for them to act. Let them pull the lever. Let them be the one to play God. When the trolley approaches the isolated victim on the track in front of you, shut your eyes and keep them closed until rescue comes. Then you can go home with your conscience clear. It is a self-serving solution, but can anyone blame you for wanting an easy way out of this nightmare? Is the solution so simple? The assumption that the stranger will be compelled to save themselves is just that, an assumption. What if they believe you will act? Should no one pull their levers, the terror of exploding bricks and rushing trolley will torment the stranger for a few seconds before the end comes. You, on the other hand, have no choice but to watch 1,000 pounds of metal death charging at you. It is not unreasonable for the stranger to assume that you would pull the lever to avoid the demise speeding your way. You will be the murderer, while they keep their hands clean. Even if they believe you will refuse to touch the lever, that does not mean they will act. The unknown timer is just as likely to make them indecisive as it is to drive them to action. Perhaps they will do nothing in the hopes that rescue will come before the trolley arrives. Perhaps, unable to escape or fight their way out, the stranger will freeze, too petrified to do something as simple as pulling a lever. The vibration under your feet intensifies. The trolley continues forward. There is a certain unreality to seeing something so large approach without hearing it. If you are not so aware of the sweat gluing your clothes to your skin and the nausea boiling in your stomach, you could almost convince yourself this is just a dream. Details of the vehicle come into focus. The trolley number 1976, the front lights, the large windows reflecting your surroundings. You cannot see the driver. Are they also an innocent party? Are they the ones who put you through this sick game? Is there a driver? Or is the trolley moving on its own? There is no time to ruminate on these questions. If you do nothing believing the stranger on the other side of the wall will act, and they do nothing believing you will act, both of you will die. The only way to guarantee your survival is to pull the lever. If all lives are equal, then the one person isolated on the track should not be spared over the 2 of you or the 5 of them. It does not make this decision any easier. Telling yourself they are a bad person, serial killer, child predator, or abuser of the elderly would help alleviate your guilt, but you do not know this person on the track. They could just as easily be a saint. What if they regularly donate to charity or volunteer at homeless shelters? What if they have the cure for cancer? What if they are just like you, with the lever by your side being the only thing differentiating the 2 of you? In the end, it does not matter, cruel as that may seem. Killing the least amount of people will, ideally, cause the least amount of harm. The death of one person is the best outcome in this situation. You need to pull the lever. Except, what if the stranger on the other side of the wall shares this belief? What if they also pull the lever in the hopes that only one person will perish? The lives of those on tracks A and B are not worth more than the 5 on track C. You struggle with the idea of killing the captive in front of you. How on earth will you handle being responsible for multiple deaths? You cannot pull the lever. But if the stranger on the other side of the wall also refuses to pull the lever, both of you will die. The vibrations on track A sends a buzzing pain through your kneecaps. The trolley is close enough for you to see a vague shadow through the front window. Is that the driver? The reflections on the glass obscure much of the vehicle's interior. Surely if it were a driver, they would honk or try to stop. Unless they have no intention of pulling the brakes, or the vague silhouette is just the vacant driver's seat. Is the other side of the wall also vacant? The only evidence of someone else being on track A with you is the message written on the bricks. In that case, the outcome of doing nothing or pulling the lever is entirely up to you. Why lie about someone else being on your track? To add to your stress. If you were chained to the wall but otherwise had full control, the situation would be less dire. A second party is a variable that you cannot control. A second party can get you killed, or cause you to kill more people than you intended. Whatever sadist did this to you must be laughing in the shadows, enjoying the sight of you trying to anticipate the actions of someone who is not there. If there is no one beyond the wall, then what did your lever actually do? Currently, the lever stands straight up. Perhaps it was capable of controlling the switch rails for tracks A, B, and C without the need of a second lever. If so, which direction diverted the trolley away from where you stood? Would not touching it cause the trolley to drive through track A like the message claimed? Or would it move to a different track? With growing horror, you realize that if the lever can control all 3 tracks, you do not know which position does what. Pull right, A. Stand straight, B. Pull left, C. Or pull right, B. Stand straight, C. Pull left, A. Or pull right, C. Stand straight, A. Pull left, B. This is assuming there is 3 options for the lever. What if there is only 2? Which 2? And this is also assuming you are being lied to. What if the message is telling the truth about someone being on the other side of the wall? The trolley gets closer. You still cannot see the driver. Death rumbles in your chest. What if the person on the track in front of you is your kidnapper, and this is a sick version of Russian roulette that they like to play? What if all the captives on the track are in on the joke, and they're secretly laughing at you? What if your lever does nothing at all, and you spent all this time panicking before your inevitable demise? Breathe. Breathe. The trolley is almost here, but you need to breathe. You must act now, or shut your eyes and hope for the best. You are just as much of a victim as everyone else on these tracks. Does that justify pulling the lever? If someone is on the other side of the wall, can you trust them to do the right thing? What is the right thing? Is it better to die a hero? Is it worth sacrificing yourself for people you do not know? The trolley is here. Do you pull the lever or do nothing?